I'm Detective Lieutenant Elliott, and this is Trooper Wagner. We just want to ask a few questions. We understand the night of his demise, the family have gathered to celebrate your father's 85th birthday. How was it, by the way?
The party? Pre my dad's death? Oh, it was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request that you all stay until the investigation is completed.
What?
Can we ask why? Has something changed?
No.
No, it hasn't changed, or no, we can't ask.
I'm gonna live.
You did it! You found another special episode of The Film Board from The Next Reel on rashpixel.fm. We spoil movies, and this month we've gone and done something we've never done before. We saw an advanced screening coordinated in 3 different cities. If you were ahead of the game like us, you may have caught Knives Out at your local theater on Friday, November 22nd, but if not, you can catch it on the official release date this November 27th. And tonight, we're going to spoil the whole darn thing for you. Let's take a second and introduce our gang of thugs tonight. Welcome to Spoiler Town. Pete Wright.
Knives are out, beaks are bloody.
Hello, Tommy Handsome.
It's me, I'm here too.
And spoiling always feels so good with Steve Sarmento.
Well, all I can tell you is that I think Ryan Johnson, Bob Duxey, and Steve Yedlin did it in Boston, Massachusetts with an Arri Alexa 65 and Hasselblad Prime 65 lens.
Hasselblad.
I did not know where that was going.
Yeah.
That was a deep cut. Movie's not even out yet, and that's a deep cut.
Love it. I'm JJ, and I feel like not only are the stakes high for us tonight because it is a pre-release spoiler fest, but I know we sometimes can feel trepidation about spoiling this genre. Knives Out is a bit of an old school mystery movie. What other ones have been like this for us on the Film Board? I know we did Murder on the Orient Express for sure. Are there any others?
Well, we've done Clue.
Oh, you guys have done that on the
we
main
did Clue
show.
And we did Murder by Death, and
Okay.
and so we've done a couple of these,
Right.
3 or 4 of them.
Well, so Clue with the multiple endings, that's somewhat the same, but different as well. And since these are older on the main show, this is probably the only time that we've done this that doesn't have the older story, or that someone would have had a chance to see the mystery in advance. I'm wondering if we are reaching the pinnacle of spoilery here.
Oh, I see, because we're even ahead of the game.
Up mystery that's not technically out yet, and we're going to talk about it.
It's so much. Spoil.
I'm super intimidated now. I didn't know.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for stakes.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Good stuff.
Anxiety.
It's a really good point.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe we'll hold up a little bit and make a distinct call out when we get into spoiler territory. We'll play it. We'll play a little fast and loose, but we'll do it. Before we get started here, if you're listening to the show, you should go learn all the good stuff about the Next Reel extended family of podcasts at thenextreel.com. There are cool ways to join us and our fun community of film fanatics there. So come on in, because we want to continue the conversation with you. If you haven't heard, the best way to support us is over at patreon.com/thenextreel. We appreciate all of your ears and all of your support. Okay. So.
Oh, wait.
Money.
Merch.
Oh,
merch. Thenextreel.com/merch.
Okay.
Thenextreel.com/merch. If you go there, you'll go over to our TeePublic store and you'll be able to get, Next Reel stickers and shirts and all kinds of fun things. And I'm only saying that because it's in the United States. It is Thanksgiving week as you are listening to this, if you're current. And that means we're going into Black Friday and we're going into Cyber Monday. And man, they want to sell you stuff hard. So as long as you're buying stuff hard, you might as well buy hard stuff from us and get some Next Reel stuff. Put some stickers on your stuff. And it's great. Stuff all your stickers and with Next Reel.
This may be the wrong question to ask right now, but is that hat that you're wearing right now in this live YouTube feed, is that available?
Oh, this is not available. The Next Reel hat.
Collectors.
It is a collector's edition. We are going to do another run of hats, but we need to take pre-orders for hats. That's a special thing.
So here's a brainstorm. On patreon.com, we create this upper level of the hats off our heads.
Oh, that's good.
And then we sign. This is, freeform. We're doing this on the show.
Look
but
at what
still,
you're doing here. This blue sky
this is
ideation.
what we can do.
I love it.
Yeah, here we go. So we have these wonderful hats. You see them on YouTube. You have a chance to get one. I'll sign mine if you want it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Join
Hey,
us,
guys.
join up with us at Patreon.
Guys, just brainstorming. You give us $20. We will give you this podcast. It is your podcast. You can talk about whatever you want. We don't care. $20 Patreon. Right? We're really shooting.
All of that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, we're all in.
Okay, so let's kick off with really general initial thoughts and feelings that you guys had on this. What are your impressions and reactions to Knives Out? Pete Wright.
I hate going first, but I'm going to do it because
remember that.
Pioneers take the most arrows right here. I deeply enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
I had a great time. I was all smiles the whole way through. I am an undisputed, unmitigated fan of Rian Johnson, except for Floating Leia. I really enjoy his work. Brick, Brothers Bloom. I'm just a fan, and so this movie lived up to everything I wanted out of it. Out of subverting some of the whodunit tropes and still having a lot of fun. All smiles. I thought it was great.
All right. That's a very positive, pioneering aspect to that first call, Pete. Let's see how many arrows are out there. Steve Sorrento, what did you think of it?
I maybe not as enthusiastic as Pete, but I did enjoy that, as he said, it really subverted the conventions of the genre, but it still gave me everything I wanted in a murder mystery, a very suspenseful story. I don't think I'm getting into spoilery too much if I say that what was really unique about this is that the who done it gets known very early on. So it gave me a lot of questions to ask as far as where this story was going, how was it going to still be a mystery, what was going on, and it kept me really intrigued, engaged, and trying to keep up while, as a big fan of movies, trying to jump 3 steps ahead and anticipate where this was going. Always kept me on my toes, and I really, really enjoyed it.
And I don't think that's a spoiler either, especially because Rian Johnson came out very early on and said that he didn't want the audience to be trying to figure out who did it. So, and that's part of that subversion that you guys are talking about. So they do give you the idea of the story very early, and the rest of the movie is unraveling how it all came together. And I think that's kind of one of the smart things about this movie. Tommy, what did you think about The Knives Out?
Well, every podcast needs differing opinion. I am not one of them. I thought it was outstanding. I thought it was so entertaining. It's one of the most entertaining films I feel like I've seen this year. With the subversion, you're right. It told you who did something. And then there was still so much to learn in a way that was so smart. You could get ahead of it. But even sometimes if you were ahead of the movie, the way that he delivered the answers was still so enjoyable. I was just blown away. I thought everyone looked like they were having a great time. It's my favorite ensemble dark movie since Ready or Not, which I know didn't come out that long ago, but these two, I think, really will stand the test of time. I thought it was outstanding. And I don't know why I said and. I don't have anything else. I just assumed I had something else to say. And I'm marrying it. You guys, I'm getting married to the movie. That's impossible. Okay, the end. I really love it.
It's about time.
It's California.
There'll be a citizens initiative in no time. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I love that you guys all felt that way about it. I didn't dislike it in any way. I did. One of the difficulties that came up for me when I was ranking it on my personal flick chart was that I felt like the movie in general was in the smaller variety. It was a little bit thin in places, but it didn't bother me about it. I thought it was a great movie too. I enjoyed it almost entirely the whole way through. Pete and I actually saw it together, so we've had a little bit of a spoilery conversation for us, right, for this show. But I there were points where I was feeling kind of alone in the shallowness of the film. But other than that, I don't think that's a problem, because I think it is a well encompassed story, and for the purpose of the mystery, this is the way that these movies are supposed to be made. So I liked it too. But very quickly, I want to do it. I'm going to give a synopsis of the film, and I think it will have the conclusion spoiled, but I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. A wealthy family patron is found dead after his birthday party, after he tells all of his sycophantic family hangers-on that he is going to cut them off and out of his will. His death is initially ruled a suicide, but the family and their entanglements are investigated. Their money motives become suspicious, and their lies weave a confusing web. It's brought together by a renowned detective with a comical drawl who leverages ridiculously poignant dysfunction in the patron's bed nurse because she vomits every time she lies, which is... That in and of itself is unique and special about this movie. And she was the last one to see him alive. But I didn't spoil it with that. But that may be okay. What more should we say here in terms of the synopsis? Maybe we don't need to get into it yet. Maybe we can make this show a mystery unto itself. Who will be the one that detects or reveals the first real spoiler?
Right. And who killed me?
I see here in the notes, I think this is from you, Pete, that you said he came up with the concept for this movie after he finished Brick. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding, that he's been tooling around with this for a long time. And he finally, so he came up with the idea after Brick. He made Brothers Bloom and finally said, this is going to be the next thing I do. I'm going to make this movie, this modern whodunit, and then Star Wars happened.
Sure.
And so he's just been in a place of distraction since then. So, once the table was set, I think it's actually great because he has, like, to Tommy's point, this at his disposal now, he has this incredible ensemble cast.
Who wouldn't have all joined up right after Brick, of course.
Yeah, probably. It might not have had as much clout to do that right after Brick. I don't know. I think he made use of these people in a way that I think shows a maturing of his directorial style and chops. And I think it's been really fun to revisit a little bit of Brick and Brothers Bloom going into this one, because you can really see how he is developing as a director, and you can see how tight this film is. How tight it has gotten over, particularly the Brothers Bloom, which I think loosened up a bit. And I still love that movie very much. And I actually really love that Rachel Weisz is in that one, and now he's directing Daniel Craig in this one. I think that's really charming. They share a bed.
Oh, did you hear me go?
I felt like
because I had no idea why. I was like, because they're the same person. No. Okay, good. I'm glad that you did that because I was just trying to pretend to be smart. Could you tell? Pete knows from my face when I'm like, exactly.
Well, you mentioned that they might not have had the cast sign on after Brick. What do we think the reason is to work with this? Because I think we're going to get into more about the story here, but I think it's a pretty innovative movie and an innovative story in and of itself. But is this just Ryan's cachet after coming off of this big off of Star Wars, or is there something more that brings all these names together?
I'm going to say I think it's the story may have been there after Brick, but I think the writing. I think the experience he had in crafting, working on, Brothers Bloom, Looper, just the experience that he had to be able to write something that's darkly comic like this, just a lot of the jokes. I think a lot of that piece takes some skill and craft in writing. And I did go onto YouTube and look at some of the interviews, and there were a lot of questions about how much of this was improvised or what did you bring to this character, and everybody basically said this was all on the page.
Really?
This was all there. So I think that the story was there after Brick, but I think this version of the story wouldn't have been there at that time, and I'm thankful that we were able to get this now because I think just I had so much fun with these characters, the story. There was so much for them to work with. I know it's spread out. I mean, this is a huge ensemble cast, so we don't get a lot of any one character, which in some ways is a plus because we get so much of everybody, but we don't get deep with any one character. We don't have a audience surrogate that we're really following along. But I still really enjoyed the bits and pieces of moments of time I have with each of these characters through the story.
And I think that to follow along that line, Brick proved that he could deliver with dialogue and naughty sort of plotting. Looper proved that he could really tell a story non-linearly. And Star Wars proved that he could handle a big cast and a lot of money. And so this feels like I can handle all these. So even give me something smaller, more contained like Brick, and I'll blow it out of the water, which makes sense.
Yeah.
There's so much trust, I think, that people would give to him.
Is this counter programming for traditional family movies during Thanksgiving weekend? Is that what's happening here? Because, I mean, we all liked this movie. You guys especially liked this movie a lot. So how, in what way is Knives Out going to come to a place where people are going to be able to support it and make sure that it gets the kind of response that it needs?
So it was a family event for us.
Oh,
so
nice.
I
What's it
went,
rated?
my wife went, my daughter went.
PG-13.
It's PG-13.
Perfect.
Both my in-laws went. So there were 5 of
Smart.
us that went, and everybody had a great time with this. So I don't know that I think it's counter programming to younger family entertainment for those with small children, but I think for anybody with teens, this is great fun for the whole family.
It's the anti-Frozen crowd.
I was just going to say that. I mean, that feels like, it's a very different message. Maybe not quite as wholesome, but really fun.
Yeah.
I always think about movies at this time period, always thinking
Yes.
about awards.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's too big, spread out wise, cast wise, as we've already said. I think everyone is enormously fantastic in it, but no one has like a huge enough scene except maybe the nurse.
Yeah,
I really had
Marta.
to think about that. Marta,
Ana de
yes.
Armas.
Right. But the screenplay is so. I mean, the jumping back and forth, one person finishing someone else's sentence. It's my favorite stuff in the entire world. And so could that be a possibility? Or
I suppose it could. I think the story definitely, right? Because
Yeah.
we have this sort of reverse engineering, this nonlinear story like you were talking about. I think that's really interesting and could get that kind of cachet. I didn't particularly love the dialogue. I think it's great that you really liked how people were finishing the sentences and you get that sort of the bickering, right, of everyone, and that's done really well, orchestrated really well. But in terms of the lines, I didn't love all the lines too much. There's one line that we talk about where when Chris Evans comes back in and he's talking about reopening the investigation or coming back to look, and he says, "What is this CSI KFC?"
that one's not good.
Yeah,
I don't like that one. I agree, but I like a lot of the other ones, and I like some of the social satire about what we are dealing with. What we're dealing with. We're trying to keep this apolitical. What America is currently at with the Trump administration and things. I mean, it's weirdly also has to do with that.
Sure,
As sort
sure.
of a little B
Yes.
story, which is interesting.
And that talks
Well,
about
very much, and it buries some of its class discussion in the mystery, like not quite sure how to handle Marta and her family and their position, and just when you think you have a handle on what they're doing and what her motivation is, she plays. There's such nuance in her performance, scene to scene, through the second and third act that you're just never quite sure what she is up on and what she isn't. Like, I found myself constantly questioning. I didn't mind the KFC line at all. I thought it was super fun. And I think that coming from Captain America made it that much better. I thought it was great. I did not have the script problems that you guys did. I was right along with it.
well, and that'll jump us right to performance, right? I mean, we've got Daniel Craig playing Benoit Blanc. And and his accent, I've already talked to Pete a little bit about this, but his accent was hard for me. I felt like it was something trying to do something Creole or something, I guess, but maybe it was meant to be just generally Southern. Again, I got over it. It's not something that stuck with me throughout the film, but at times it was very confusing to me what he was doing.
I was going to make a Foghorn Leghorn joke on this podcast, except the movie made it for me.
Yes,
Chris Evans calls him Foghorn Leghorn at one point, and I was like, all right, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I posted a link for you guys to a YouTube video just to hear an example of the guy that he apparently based his accent on, and that is writer and journalist Shelby Foote.
Okay.
Who died in 2005. And he is from Greenville, Mississippi, and he has a very unique way of speaking. And so I, too, had a little bit of difficulty with the accent. I found it drifted into his character for me after just a few minutes. But then I went back and I listened to Shelby Foote, and it just locked for me. I just feel I get what he was going for. And it may have not been something that sort of adapted to the character, but I do get what he was going for with that accent. And it's not as bothersome as some other movie accents that we've certainly run across in this.
To JJ's credit, part of me, as you're sort of like overactively trying to figure things out, even if you don't want to in a mystery movie. I was expecting him to potentially drop it, a la Ryan Phillippe in Gosford Park. That he, for some reason, had a reason to be putting on, because it's so big.
Well,
the accent is half of the character. The accent is to him as the mustache was to
Poirot.
Yeah, to what's his name?
Right.
Kenneth.
Kenneth Branagh.
No, it's pronounced Gwyneth. It's pronounced Gwyneth. And he's opening Goop. Okay, go ahead.
Well, and we should say that Benoit Blanc, is the detective character. He's the guy that's brought in to do this. And we have said that we've seen in reports that people are talking about him as a Southern Poirot or this kind of thing, where they're bringing him in to have that kind of big personality like that. And with Pete, what you're talking about with this link, it sounds like that's the natural thing that's there. But I was doing the same thing as Tom. I was thinking there must be something that's not completely correct about this.
This has to be a gambit.
Right. And this movie,
I think that's the whole point of a movie like this, I think, is to sort of keep you off balance on this, as far as, is everybody who they appear to be, and is somebody playing a con on someone else. And so you have a character that goes big like this, but it does fit in with the Poirot type of a character, of somebody that's sort of I don't want to say caricature, but borderline on that, with such a big personality. It fits with, to me, again, the expectations of the genre. So I went along with it for that.
Well, and here maybe we should talk about the spoiler, right? Because we're talking about expectations and what we think through all this. When we talk about Rian Johnson trying to make it not that traditional whodunit, where we all are wondering who was doing it the whole time. What he does is he creates a knowledge base for us to understand who the killer was, or how the patron dies early. And at that point, it kind of changes the way that you watch this movie. If you're just watching how the murder or how the death happened, it's no longer a whodunit, even though what they did is give us motives for everyone else in the house at the time.
It is a little disconcerting at first. I remember sort of going, oh, like we just got here. Like, what are we? Okay. Like, I was afraid that they would switch the reels. We don't have reels anymore. No, we have DCP, but still like I was like, all right.
But for me, that created some great dramatic tension, because now it became a case of, can this person outwit the great detective? And to see that play out, of how can this person now try to hide their tracks and keep him from discovering, who this, what happened, created a different type of expectation, for me, of where the story was going. And it made it a completely different type of movie, still just as fun, and still kept that suspense, because it's is he still going to figure it out? But now for different reasons. You're not rooting for him. You're almost rooting against him.
That's the subversion of the genre. And at this point, we can't keep saying this person, because we have to say that Ana de Armas as Marta accidentally, in her belief, kills this patron, and then she conspires with this patron to cover her tracks. And the rest of the story at this point in the story is for us to try to believe in our protagonist, this wonderful Marta, and how she can actually follow all of the instructions she was given, so that she does have her tracks covered in this. But that's the subversion, because it is still a mystery. It's just told in reverse, in that we know the outcome, yet we're following this detective trying to suss her out.
And there's an earlier, this isn't as important for the long-term conversation, but there is a subversion even before that I think he uses to make this subversion palatable, is we, just the audience, are given information before Daniel Craig during their initial interviews. And that many all of them, we see them all lie, that's never happened in any Agatha Christie or something. He has to figure out those things. And at the very end, you see what really happened. We're seeing what really happened just in the middle of a conversation, which is fascinating.
That's the thing that I think I found really twisted about the architecture of this movie. The first 15 minutes, we get the whole thing, and we see all of the mechanics of their lies during their interviews. It was at 1 hour as I'm sitting there, and I look at my watch and I think, well, all of the questions that I personally had have now been answered.
Right.
What the hell comes next?
Right.
I have another hour and 15 some odd minutes with this movie, and now it's a why done it, and I'm supposed to care about that. And that is what's really marvelous about this movie, is that I found myself deeply interested in what he was going to give me in the next hour. I haven't felt like genuinely interested in the surprise part of the mechanic in a long time. And I think that's a real gift of this movie. And that's something that he is sort of uniquely interested in playing with in his other films too. And I felt really good about that twist.
So now that we've got sort of this whole subversion up front, and you now know this, is this going to hold up to a rewatch? I mean, because I know there's one thing that I am already thinking about. I need to go back and watch this again, because during that early scene, as they're being interviewed and Benoit's in the back and he strikes those piano keys, I need to be paying attention to know, is he cueing us in that he's detected a lie? What's going on with those pieces? Because it's something that's very important. And there's so many layers to this that for me, at least to answer that question, to understand this detective, I need to go see that. I'm anticipating a little bit
he put in stuff.
Different level of appreciation of how everything's going to work together on this. But for me, just knowing that we've got things subverted, I'm still anticipating high rewatchability.
I think so too. And I just, even as JJ and I are watching the movie, like those first 15, 20 minutes as we're getting them lying to you, once you discover they're lying and that there are like you see the same shot from different character perspectives and you realize it was like the third or fourth one. JJ looks at me and he's like, "Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, "Oh my God, there are different things going on screen of the same flashback."
In every story. Yeah.
In every story. And
Meaning
I thought
changes.
that was just,
yes,
different
changes.
people behind the sparkler cake.
There's a person on the right.
Because that's how they remember
yes.
themselves, or that's how they want to present themselves. They were the closest one behind the most important person behind him blowing out the cake. That stuff is going to have ramifications. Very fun.
Highly rewatchable.
And then we have the dogs barking, right? The dogs barking, which ends up to be a key thing to unsolve the mystery. It's only mentioned once in the earlier part. And I'm sitting there thinking, how come they're not mentioning this over and over again? And it's because Benoit Blanc is able to bring that back up later on when he wants to do it. The other thing, as Ransom storms out, Chris Evans storms out of the room. In the first time he does it, old great grandma says, "Ransom?" And then she never does it in anyone else's story. So I can't remember whose story that was either. And why was it in that story? Like, that's about the piano pinging too. I think I had to consider it when you asked, whether it's going to hold up on rewatch, but I think it is, because I think it's going to get more fun, especially when you love this movie. It's going to get more fun for you to start piecing everything together.
I think he's too meticulous to not have all of that stuff. It's almost, you get a bit of a Kubrick feel for it, of like, especially it makes so much sense that he's had this kicking around since Brick, because this film is meticulous. You brought up the dog thing. I love it's not even worth, he does this little bit of subterfuge just to cover, because the dog can be such an easy clue.
Right.
Because we get a clue from the dogs and then the dogs react one way to one person, but he throws that in by saying, by having Daniel Craig say, "I always find the dogs are a good judge of character." He's now changed what the dogs mean. Rian Johnson has in front of your eyes. And it's just remarkable.
That's pretty special. And I think that part of the reason why the subversion works is because Ana de Armas as Marta is so darn likable. So even after we learn that she's accidentally, killed this person, and then she's trying to cover it up in some really elaborate and potentially not comfortable ways, if you see her as trying to get away with murder. This is before we learn that she's going to be the recipient of the fortune, which is, a spoiler as well. But before we learn all that, she's still just trying to get away with it because of this. But because she's so likable in this role, and her family and she has the right motivations and all this stuff, she she carries this movie through. It's her story, and she carries it through in a way that's really special, because then as we get the turn towards the end, and the reason why we understand that she is the protagonist, because she wins because of her goodness of heart, it's all consistent throughout the movie. And at no point are you ever questioning whether we should be rooting for Marta.
The little things he does and when he does it. And when you meet her family in the beginning, which seems at first like a throwaway scene, of course becomes incredibly important. He also doesn't make the mistake of doing the original Cape Fear, where they're all like, I just fed a puppy, I'm a nun. And because that's not relatable, the daughter, the younger sister is a little bit of a brat, but the mother is saying, no, we have to really feel about each other, so you really believe them. And then the sister, this feels like a script that has been rewritten and refined without feeling robotic.
Now, when you usually say that on this show, it's usually as a negative,
right?
Rewritten and rewritten and rewritten.
Well, because it doesn't feel rewritten by committee. It feels like one
Ryan's
vision
movie.
Getting better and better and better.
Yep.
That's the difference, I think.
Yep.
He workshopped
it.
Yeah, to the bone. And, to the credit of the cast, I have to say, like, how thrilling was it to see Jamie Lee Curtis and Don Johnson together in this? Don Johnson was great to see.
Good.
He
was so good. And their final, like, just the way their relationship worked and the way it unraveled at the end, I thought was just great. Him in the driveway was just perfect. And Michael Shannon and Toni Collette. This was just a terrific cast. And I'm already on the record as saying I think Chris Evans was just perfect in this movie, and how great it was. His his sequence at the end is I've got an idea. That was transcendent. That was an absolutely perfect, family meeting.
Golden cinema moment for Chris Evans in that too.
Yes, golden.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I would bring up with this, because we start talking about how all these characters are so wonderful at embodying their characters. Toni Collette, I thought, was spectacular. I've not seen her do that type of thing ever before, to be this kind of hippie and this sort of middling character where she's both ultra positive and yet totally superficial. I thought that was wonderful, and she did it so well. One of the things that I think is interesting is that in all of the promotion for this movie, none of this story has been set out. What they are all these character vignettes. So I've seen the Toni Collette one pretty much consistently in my feed, in my Instagram feed, and all this stuff about Flam and all of her. And she's doing literally a promo for her company.
That's neat.
Yeah, and it's nothing about the movie. It's just all about Toni Collette or the character, right? I should, this thing. And I think that's really interesting, because there's an entire world of people that really despise when trailers give you the movie. And what whoever made this trailer to promote this movie did a great job of saying is, it's going to be this kind of movie. So show up. And here are the people that you're going to witness. It's, here's Colonel Mustard. Let's take a look at Colonel Mustard, right? I think that was great.
So there were 3 of those videos. There's one for Toni Collette. So for her, for Joni. There's also one for Walt Thromby, and he talks about the publishing house and all these new, products that they're going to be developing. And then there's also a real estate ad for Linda Drysdale. It's all on the website. So I went there. There is actually a huge contest going. So there's clues hidden in those videos. Because movies so rarely have an actual website anymore.
One of those AI contests where there's a whole other world?
Well, not quite that far, but there are clues apparently in the posters and in the little, promo videos that you go and you answer some questions to solve a mystery. And not quite as big as the Beast thing from AI, but a similar type of. You spend your time doing some research, checking out the website. So, because I was wondering why they did that as well, because you don't see those types of promotions for movies anymore. They're going sort of old school with the big contests.
What do you win? Do you know?
Prop knife.
You have to answer a question. We have to start, and I guess you have to answer the big question, and that gets you some type of digital prize, and then that will get you an entry into the big sweepstakes.
I want to play. That sounds great. Oh,
there you go.
That's
Tommy.
A perfect thing to do for this kind of movie. That makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Is Ryan Johnson known for being kind of a J.J. Abrams puzzle box person? His movies are puzzle boxes, but is he known as sort of loving this kind of meta?
I don't know. I haven't seen his TED Talk. I don't actually know if he did a TED Talk.
Okay.
No, not that I'm aware
Okay.
of.
Cool.
No.
I love that stuff.
What about the other players? I mean, we've talked about all pretty much the big names here. Who are some of the other people that you loved in this movie?
Well, can I talk about the one I have a problem with?
Of course.
What?
Can we talk about Jaden Martell as Jacob Thrombey, who is sort of like the punching bag punchline character? He has minimal amount of screen time. Minimal role in the plot. There's not a whole lot for him to do. And I know that there are some people, and I think Pete, you can probably put this in the show notes, that his character was inspired by sort of those angry online fans. And that was
angry
the one
online
character
fans of what?
Because of the whole Star Wars Last Jedi thing. This was his sort of beating up the fanboys that came after him. And I think there's more to it than that.
This was he's getting back at the community by putting in an alt-right troll into his movie and not giving him anything to do. Triumph.
Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, I can cast aside that whole whether or not it's a personal thing about him and the online, hate groups, whatever. It tied in very nicely, I think, to the whole sort of political conversations that we see the family having, and how parents and kids may be at different ends of the political spectrum. Mm-hmm. That's fine. It gives a sense of time and place now. But as far as the story, he's the one character that didn't have, everybody else had something to gain or lose, or was somehow playing this game. Jacob is the only one that just is really sort of really passive about everything, because, Meg's got her whole college thing going on. She's got a relationship with Marta. But Jacob, he just wasn't there. Well, and I guess even Donna, that's we've got two characters that are present, but just really have no active
Donna,
role
wife
in
of
the
Walt.
story.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yes,
I think there's a cut of this
exactly,
movie where he has more scenes.
You
and
think?
they were cut out because he's so either polarizing or is such a villain or too timely, something like that. That, to your credit, I think that, and he's like a real actor, like he's with It and all this stuff. He's such a huge up and comer. I think that maybe they just sort of shot it, re-looked at it, and was like, he's pushing things. Because I like how he uses the socio-political situation that we're going in, where Don Johnson's character isn't saying like, kill everybody, they will not replace us. He's delivering what he thinks are very salient points, which a certain amount of people, and maybe having that character talk too much. That character does drop the term anchor babies, but that's just my guess.
Yeah.
I enjoy conjecture, mystery.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts is when Don Johnson, where they're having the family argument, and Don Johnson is trying to make the point that that Marta's family came here legally and wanted to bring her in to ask her for a comment to like back him up, and then he hands her a plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was devastating. And also when he quotes Hamilton. When he goes, immigrants, we get the job done. Hamilton, right?
Hamilton,
I was
right?
like missing the point. It's so great. He looked like he was having a ball.
Yeah.
Don Johnson.
Yes.
They would just cut to him sometimes and he would just be laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought all of that was handled really interestingly. That's just my guess, Steve, is because so much of it was so subtle that maybe his character would have pushed it to the side.
Well, and how quickly can that conversation completely derail the reason we show up to this movie, right? Like, this isn't a movie about that, and we want that side character not to take us in a direction where we're feeling something that distracts us from the why done it.
Exactly.
Right. It's meant to be an extreme comedic point within the mystery, not what the movie is about. They want to use that
I agree.
as opposed to making the movie about that. So I think you may be right, Tommy.
I did it. Welcome back to conjecture.com.
We saw in the credits roll, we saw Joseph Gordon-Levitt, just Joe.
What?
Had a credit in this movie.
Looper?
It's voice only.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
voice cameo.
His voice, well, because it goes back to Brick and also
Looper.
Yeah.
yes, well, Looper, but
we
the
all
other
like Looper?
detective.
Oh,
The other detective is
I liked it.
Trooper Wagner. So the other troop. So we've got the two that are there at the beginning. So Noah Segan, he was also early back in Brick. So
Oh,
it's
I
Ryan
didn't know
Johnson
he was
having
in
those
that. That's
actors. Yes. So he's got his voice
That's
that
nice.
he's, his Lucky Charms, I think he brings with him. I don't know.
I love that. I love it when
Yes.
filmmakers bring people along, even just for little things, almost like, oh, you said
Yes.
Lucky Charms. I'm just repeating what
Yes.
you said. Yeah.
Love you, Tommy.
Totems. All right.
Totems. Ooh.
So anything else about any other cast members that you want to point out? We talk about that, him bringing along these people. There's a lot of kind of bit parts in here. He's making some tributes as well. Yeah.
There were two. The first one was Frank Oz. That is absolutely. It was great to see him. First thing he's been in since Blues Brothers 2000.
Wow.
Where he is not a voice character performer. But the other one was M. Emmett Walsh, and I had to take a minute as I was reading about this because the part that M. Emmett Walsh plays, the sort of gate guard security guy, was supposed to be played by Ricky Jay, who apparently they were ready to do it, and he passed away on November 24th last year. And
He made him sound like he almost passed on the role, but he passed.
He passed on the roll.
From life.
He passed. He passed before the.
He was
elephant
fired from
after
breathing.
statue.
Yes, but he's in the movie. I mean, his
there
picture.
is a picture of him in the movie, right? Just right before we see Walsh on screen. So it's great. I miss Ricky Jay.
Me too.
That was it.
And I will officially never stop enjoying watching Michael Shannon play Michael Shannon. He is not throwing a lot of variation in there. Either he's a mean, scary sucker or a mean, scary bully. And either way, I'm in. Oh, and this time he has a cane and a beard. Woo! I am in the Michael Shannon business.
They used that cane so threateningly. That rubber foot at the bottom was scary.
Yes. Well done. And a lot of shots. There were a lot of tight shots like that to instill drama. I think that's one of the things that's maybe interesting about the camera here is that they interspersed a lot of the sort of dialogue pieces with off shots or doing these things where you can make the transition in a way that's dramatic as you go. And I was really happy with that. One of my favorite shots in the movie is actually the first shot when we see the house in the distance and we're slowly coming up in the house and we see the dogs chasing and there's this great sort of string piece coming in. I was reminded of like a Yorgos Lanthimos thing, like from The Lobster, right? As like you're going to come into this dark comedic thing and it really showed this kind of appreciation of here is the set, here is where we're coming. It brought us into everything really wonderfully. So I was really happy with the camera throughout. I didn't think there was any wasteful stuff from the camera as we went through this movie.
So I do want to talk about Lakeith Stanfield and his Lieutenant Elliot, who to me is sort of the grounding factor in this because we've got all this craziness going on and he keeps things rooted in reality. And it's one of my favorite lines, which was, that was the worst car chase ever.
Because it was accurate. That's the big part.
Yes, exactly.
He's the audience surrogate.
He's the audience surrogate, you think?
I think Lakeith Stanfield, because he's the one saying, settle down, you're kind of crazy, Foghorn Leghorn. He doesn't say Foghorn Leghorn, but he's the one that's like, we can wrap this up. This is all dumb.
Like that.
And then it just keeps becoming, he's the one saying, you're all nuts. You're all crazy. And that piano is annoying. Like he's...
and making him the audience surrogate makes me like his character more because otherwise the character doesn't really have a point in
There's
the
not
story.
as much to hang on to. Right. Yeah.
So
that's
if you call him the audience surrogate, I'm actually going to be happier with his position. I liked some of his lines too. And I think Lakeith did a great job there. I was happy with the way he brought it off, but I was disappointed that the character didn't really have a position there other than to be a counter to the super fan other officer, right? So I think I was really happy. I really like thinking of him as the audience surrogate in this role.
I think he was the one person that wasn't in some way a cartoon character. Everyone was such an extreme in some way or campy or something. He just, that's his brilliance of just being able to talk normal.
Right.
He also didn't cool it up. He also didn't go, hey, everybody. Like he was just like, what's happening?
Right.
This house is so dumb.
And if you take the genre, right, if he is the audience surrogate, he doesn't need to be along for the ride when Benoit and Marta go places because he doesn't know. And the idea for us as audience members with the mystery is we're not supposed to know. We're supposed to be what is going on right now. So I think I really like that. I hadn't thought of that before. So I think that's really great.
Also, if you haven't seen it, go watch Sorry to Bother You. That is all.
I still haven't seen this.
Yes.
What?
I still haven't.
That's
I haven't
his
seen
movie,
Parasite.
right?
I'm still getting through the Police Academy movies.
Is there anything else about the production that you guys found particularly special in what we were doing here?
The production design is almost
Yes.
like it's this close to being too distracting.
How do you mean?
The house, you mean?
It's just the house is so
loveliness of the house.
amount of stuff in the background in every scene for a movie based on clues and stuff. At times I realized, oh, how long have I been staring at that other bear?
But you know what's so
And
great about
this
that,
and
Tommy,
that
is like
and-
the whole thing. It's a house about a murder mystery writer,
Which,
who
yes.
and is the entire movie is a MacGuffin. Right.
Right.
Of course, the production design is going to be chock full of stuff that you think you're supposed to look at. And Steve Yedlin behind the camera, I think he does an incredible job of the way they cut together our focus on those tchotchkes. And every time we get a little bookend between acts
It's
where
always
they
those.
focus on pieces of the house, they become more aggressive,
They
right?
do.
They become more interesting, and there's teeth bared by the end. And I just think it was used
Interesting.
so beautifully. So of course, I think that's just luscious, and incredible patience not to use the ring of the son of knives until the very, very last moment. I thought that was just great. I expected them to pull a knife out of there way earlier and to hold that off, and to that great reveal scene where we come in across kind of parallax to the knives, and Benoit turns around, and it's just a great dramatic moment. This movie is full of such perfect hero shots. I just thought it was exhilarating. Steve Yedlin did all of his movies too. He's sort of made
They're partners. That's
I
great.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite production design pieces in the whole movie is the trick window that has a painting of someone coming through the window.
Coming through a window.
I love
Talk
that.
about a MacGuffin in a McMuffin right there. That's amazing.
Now, Pete, aren't you the person that really despises when movies use the title in the dialogue?
I am.
And?
I'm that guy.
I
I hate
looked at you
it so
directly
much.
when they said it.
I know.
And
I know. You know what? Because I like the movie so much, it had earned a lot of credibility to me. So it's
I
not
figured.
like it lost a star at that moment, but this was one of those movies where, to me, it was in world enough that it felt kind of a piece to the narrative.
And
I have to admit.
in sentence enough. Like they didn't.
Yeah.
No one went. They really have their knives out.
Knives
Like it wasn't
out.
a real.
Yeah.
You truly are the miracle worker. That's not. That's also not. I think I've talked on the podcast before that a friend of the show, Todd Weinger, believes that every movie should end with the title. That was quite a Milagro Beanfield War. It should always.
This experience was a real looper.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, is he psycho. Anyways, I feel like I've made these exact same comments on other ones. But no, I liked it. It was so natural in the script. It made me wonder what came first, that line or the title. Because I feel like when you're going through of like, hey, that's kind of fun. Yeah.
I think that's fair. It also was shot in Boston and on location in a lot of places in Massachusetts. That isn't super normal, right? I mean,
Is he a Boston guy?
I don't know the answer to that.
No, he's from Colorado. Ryan Johnson.
What?
Yeah.
From where?
Yeah.
Oh,
But I'm from Colorado and I'm not famous or successful. What's his secret?
You have to make a movie that's a brick.
Yeah.
and end it with that
Oh.
line. Right? No, I was really happy with it, and it really did appear like the location shots I thought were special. I was happy with the fact that they did that. I wonder, is there a house in like this in Boston that they shot? That's great. If there is,
It's gotta be,
I think that's
yeah.
wonderful. They really made use of the location shots in a very special way. I was happy with all that. If you guys don't have anything else to say about this movie, it might be time for us to rank it.
Knives Out to share and find out where this film shall rank as we declare Knives Out to slash and rank rehash. Will we agree or shall we clash? Knives Out. That was to the tune of Beetlejuice for no reason.
That was seriously the Yoda baby of Tom's fantastic.
It's been a
Flick Chart
while.
songs.
It's been a while since
Yeah.
we've had a great
I
Tommy
know.
Flick Chart song, and that's because
Well-earned.
movies have kind of stunk for a while. So I am really happy that we had that one.
Thank
Very
you.
cool. We've got all the movies that we've talked about on this show ranked over at flickchart.com/TNR Film Board. Flickchart is a really cool site where you can create a tournament-style stack ranking of your movie preferences. So check it out and find out how your film favorites fare against ours. I think all of us have individual flick charts, or most of us do as well. And I think it's really fun to do this. So let's do it for the show. Pete, where do we start?
Knives Out or Hail Caesar?
Knives Out.
Knives Out.
Knives Out.
Knives Out it is. How about Knives Out or Split?
Oh, that's not fair.
I think I'm going to say Knives Out.
Opening bid with Knives Out. And
I am going to go with Knives Out.
2 for Knives Out.
Are you waiting for me or are
Me?
you going to go, Pete?
No, I'm waiting for you.
I might change this, but I'm going to say Knives Out.
Okay. Pete.
Outstanding. Knives Out takes it.
Nice.
But that was fun to have a real humdinger right in the beginning. Usually we're like Monuments Men or Monuments Men. And I just want to go take a nap.
How about Knives Out or Guardians of the Galaxy?
Knives Out.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Stevie.
Knives Out.
Petey. Petey.
Right.
Petey. You're both sharks.
I think I think I'm gonna have to say I'm with Tom. I kind of get excited, and I don't know. It's the curse of recency here.
Take it.
No,
It's not a bad curse.
No, it's not the curse of recency. It's that there's some movies that are very enjoyable, but have just they're popcorn fun, and then there's films
Yeah.
that are fun for different reasons, and so it's a flick chart hate crime, and it's
Yeah, it is.
It's very
so,
tough.
So what
on
were
this.
you, Steve?
Yeah.
You were Knives Out.
I was Knives Out. Yeah.
Take that recency. I'd prefer to
I'm
not paper,
doing-
rock,
I'm
scissors
doing-
this.
I'm doing Knives Out.
Okay, great. Knives Out
Okay.
takes it.
That-
All right.
What a crappy horror movie that would be. Like someone trips over a homeless gypsy and they're like, I give you recency. Oh no! I don't even know how that curse would work, but it sounds terrible.
All right. How about Knives Out or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
Knives Out, but close.
Spider-Verse.
Oh,
Again.
Just barely.
Yeah. I think that I am Spider-Verse on this.
Oh.
one.
Okay.
Mhm.
That crushes me. Too.
but I'm fine with that.
Um,
That doesn't hurt my heart.
well, it hurts my heart because that means that this movie, Knives Out, does not crack the top 10.
Oh.
It is number 11
Oh,
on our flick
with
chart.
a
That means
soft
it's
bullet.
right behind Doctor Strange and right in front of Guardians of the Galaxy, between the Marvels.
I personally wish it would have come up against The Last Jedi, but it did not, alas. So that would have been
Alas,
interesting.
it did not.
Last
The Last
Jedi.
Jedi is way up there.
Oh,
Yep.
Really?
Actually, it's not. Wait a minute. That's
Yes.
The Force Awakens.
number
is way up
7.
there.
No,
The,
it's still
yes,
up
it's
there.
number 7.
Yes.
Last Jedi is
Yeah.
number 7. Force Awakens is number 5.
Yes.
So-
This is a far superior
Yeah.
movie to The Last Jedi.
All right. Well, so how did it do on everybody else's?
Well, so my middle block is not Hail Caesar. My middle block is Forrest Gump.
Oh, sorry.
So it's in the bottom half because I can't say
Yeah.
Knives Out is better
Oh.
than Forrest Gump.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
I didn't.
I like Forrest Out. Forrest Out. I like Forrest Gump. Look.
What?
All right, never mind.
Where are you guys on stars? I say I'm giving it 3.5.
So wait a minute, JJ, are you 3.5 with a heart?
Yes, I am.
Heart. And Tommy?
4 with a heart of gold.
4 heart. And Steve?
I am 4 with a heart, and this one came at number 108 on my flick chart. That's the 77th percentile, right below. It's right there next to Ford versus Ferrari.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
I haven't seen
That's
that,
nice.
you
Nice.
stinker.
Yeah.
have recency.
yes,
And I am 4.5 and a heart.
Ooh, very nice.
I really like this movie. And in fact, I'm going to see it again. And I have every single hope that this is going to be a 5-star movie for me. I really enjoyed it, and I struggle with thinking of anything wrong with it, and you guys haven't helped that. So
Nice.
it's 4.5 and climbing.
I think that's awesome. And you know what? One of the things I want to point out here before we talk about where we're going to go from here is that we actually did not reveal who really done it.
Oh,
How did you
interesting.
manage that?
We never did it. We
I'm
don't
kinda
spoil
happy about
movies.
that. Well, there's a lot to see in this movie, and I'm happy that if you've stuck with us through this point, that you still are going to enjoy some really neat surprises about this movie, because that's kind of what a mystery should do. So I just kind of wanted to leave it there, and
I love it. That's cool.
Clearly, from all of us, we do think people should go see this movie. Where do we go from here? Next month is December, and we are, going to go see The Rise of Skywalker. We have a lot of Star Wars lore and history on this show of doing that. So we're going to go see it and see what follows Rian Johnson on the Star Wars parade. Pete, what are you guys doing on the main show?
We're in the Steve Martin parade.
Yeah.
And we're right in the middle of it. And The Jerk, and let's see, The Jerk is out this week.
Yep.
As you listen to this, Pennies from Heaven is a real laugh riot.
I just
And-
rewatched though the Christopher Walken dance scene is one of my favorite things.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love that whole
Well,
scene.
pretty much. I mean, what Christopher Walken dance scene isn't imminently rewatchable? He's fantastic. And you guys, what did you guys just did? We had a trailer rewind that you were happy about.
That's right. We did All About Nina, which is
Yes.
a kind of small film about stand-up comedy, but it is extremely dramatic. And there's something that's going to come out soon, so people can listen to it on the show, right?
It's actually, by the time this is out, it's already out.
Nice.
And so you should go
Yes.
check your feed and listen to it. We're just a show a day around here.
Look
a
at
show a
us.
day.
Look at
Love
us.
Nextreel.com/merch.
Also, I did forget to talk about it specifically in the show open, but all you wonderful people out there, after you go to the nextreel.com/merch, should come join us over on our Discord server for a pittance of support at patreon.com/thenextreel. You can come hang out with us on our server, where we discuss lots of remarkable things from throughout the entertainment universe. There's also specific chats about all of our shows, so come and join the gang and post up with us. We play nice.
All we are asking for is a mere hay penny, and if you don't have a hay penny,
I don't know the next
God
line.
bless you.
Oh,
that's right.
That's what it was.
I
should know
really
that
thought that
answer.
one of you two would know that. Okay, go ahead.
Nope. Discord is where we'll keep the conversation going. But for this one, say goodnight, Pete Wright.
Good night,
Yep.
Pete Wright. I'm going to be here. Don't worry
Yep.
about it. You guys leave. I got it. I'm going to hold down the fort.
See you later, Tommy Handsome.
Good night, Pete Ray.
And one more word from Steve Sarmento.
Hondo.
That's the one at the next reel. When the movie ends, our conversation begins. Till next.